Buongiorno amici, my name is Giovanna and I welcome you to my kitchen on the cliff. I have to congratulate all of you, all of us, because we have reached 50,000 subscribers and it's very exciting. I love doing this. I love meeting you. I love to get your comments, which I try to answer to the best of my ability. Of course, you all know that Francesca is the cinematographer and Howard is the taster, and it's just wonderful. I love my work, I love teaching, and now I love doing this. So today I'm going to do a recipe that is not from Sicily. This is a highly requested recipe, Bolognese sauce. Italian cooking is regional. If you travel 100 miles in any direction, you're going to find different climate, you're going to find different language, you're going to find different architecture, and you're certainly going to find different food. All of this is very exciting because as you travel, you find so many new things. So we'll get started with the beginning of the sauce. We make what is called a battuto. In this case, it's going to be onion, carrot, and celery. So we're going to chop those vegetables and start them with a mixture of butter and olive oil. Now, south of Rome, it's almost exclusively olive oil. North of Rome, more often than not, like in Emilia-Romagna, it's butter and olive oil mixed. So those are some of the differences between one region and another. And then we're going to add the meat. Now the meat is a ground chopped meat, and I like to use veal, pork, and beef. But you can use 2 of those meats or 1. You can have, this is 1.5 pounds of meat, and it can be all beef, all veal, or all pork, whatever you like, whatever pleases you. The tomatoes we're going to use these are Italian peeled plum tomatoes. I don't like to buy chopped tomatoes or pureed tomatoes. If I want to make a chunky tomato sauce, I just put this into the pot. This is my preferred tool. It's a potato masher, but it does a job on tomatoes as well. And what I like is that it leaves chunks of tomatoes in the sauce. So this is a simple tool, and I use it very, very often to mash down the tomatoes. And then we add a cup of white wine, and then at the very end, the last thing that you add to the sauce is the heavy cream. The only flavoring I use is salt and nutmeg. Nutmeg is something that loses flavor by standing in your pantry. But if you buy the whole nutmeg, the whole nut, and you grind it each time you need it, you have maximum flavor and taste. All right, let us begin with the onion. We're going to cut it. Okay, now that it's been cut vertically, we turn it and we cut it horizontally. And of course, it's going to give us a chopped onion. All right, when it gets to be too small, don't cut your fingers off. Just turn it and continue to chop it in the other direction. Now let's do the carrot. Now you can put more than this. When the children were small, I would put 2 carrots, I would put 4 pieces of celery and a whole onion because I wanted them to have some vegetables. And of course they never noticed them in the sauce, but they had it in their systems. So I'm going to cut it in half. I'm going to cut this again. So put it flat side down. That saves your fingers and accidents. Flat side down, it cuts very simply. Be careful with your fingers, always. Right, turn it to the flat side. And finally, we do the celery. We'll cut it in half. That's it. So this is the reason why I use only whole peeled tomatoes. Look at these gorgeous tomatoes. We're going to pour them in here. These are absolutely gorgeous, and if you want to make a quick tomato sauce, you'll have these gorgeous tomatoes right in your dish. Look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? So now I'm going to rinse the can because there's always some left over. And now for the rest of the meal, this is going to be a spoon holder by the stove.
Ready?
Yeah, okay.
You want to try? All right, so you just press that button and turn it on, this one.
So when this...
That's faster.
Oh, I want faster. Okay. It's not going to splash, right? I must confess that this is my first time with an immersion blender.
Take it out and push down on the tomato.
Yeah, so we take it out and push down on the tomato. Well, you see, an old teacher could always learn new tricks. I know those are whole tomatoes, and I don't have to worry about it, and now it's tomato puree. So, we're going to use 4 ounces of butter, and we're going to add some olive oil, 1/4 cup. Please don't be appalled at the amount of olive oil. This is a lot of sauce. This is going to feed a lot of people. And what I do is I freeze it in containers that will be enough for, say, a pound of pasta. So if we put all this fat, it's because it's going to make it taste divine. So let's turn the heat on. Now at this point, I'm going to turn the heat quite high because eventually I want the meat to brown quickly. Then we'll lower it. All right, the battuto goes in. All that this has to do is wilt. Remember, I always tell you to use all your senses when you cook. I can begin to hear the sizzling. Can you hear the sizzling? Yes, these are vegetables bathed in butter and olive oil. That's as it should be. You know, when people travel by train in Italy, they make friends with their fellow travelers in the compartment. And you wouldn't be surprised if somebody pulled out a picnic basket. Some of these trips are long, and they bring food that they want to eat along the trip. Well, the tourists usually don't have any food with them, so they hang out the window of the train, and there are lots and lots of vendors who will sell you a little box with a sandwich, a bottle of water, or a bottle of wine, a piece of fruit, some cheese, and it's wonderful. And then everybody eats together, and you share some food, and it's terrific. Well, Bologna is the only city that I've ever encountered where, when I was traveling with my grandmother, who was in her 80s already. I was 21, she was in her 80s. And we were going from Milano to Sicily. At that time, it was a 36-hour trip. So when we got to Bologna, hanging out the window to try to get something to eat, and guess what? There was a woman who was selling hot lasagna. Well, can you imagine being on this train with all the passengers, and we got hot lasagna to sit and eat. It was unique, and we never forgot it. Okay, this is already beginning to brown, so now we're going to add the meat. So here's my day for trying new fangled things. I've read about this tool, but I've never bothered to buy one. But then I decided, let me try it, see what it's like. This is supposed to be to separate the meat so it doesn't cook in clumps. Let's see if it works. It does do that. I still have it on high because I want the meat to brown. So I'm using this tool to separate the clumps of meat, but then I'm turning it to be sure that it browns evenly. If there are any experts with this tool, let me know if I'm doing the right thing. We have to keep our minds open, you know, in everything, including cooking. You know, my great-grandfather was a professional chef. He was a Monzu. And I'm sure that if he had had an immersion blender, he would have used it. Okay. I'm sorry you're not here because you would really smell this by now. It smells good. Right, I'm adding the white wine. Now we're going to cook it a little bit to get the alcohol to evaporate. By the way, I never tire of repeating that when you use wine in cooking, you use the wine that you drink at the table. You do not buy cooking wine. Cooking wine is wine that they can't sell. And so they add some salt and they add some spices and they sell it as cooking wine. There's no such thing. You know, there's always wine left over and it goes in the refrigerator, so you use that leftover wine for cooking. The alcohol by now has evaporated. We're now going to add the tomato puree. There it goes. Always rinse the container. This is where if you have broth, you add broth instead of water. In the absence of broth, you add water. We're going to add about 1.5 teaspoons full of salt. And the nutmeg. This is my ancient grater. Right? The leftover nutmeg goes into this little compartment, closes for the next time. The sauce has come to a full boil. Now, we're going to lower the heat. We want it to evaporate a little bit because I will thicken it. We cover it. Hey Siri, set the timer for 90 minutes.
1 hour and 30 minutes, starting now.
Thank you. It's done. A lot has evaporated, so we have a nice thick sauce. Now we're going to add the cream. We don't want to leave any residue. That's good cream. Okay. We're going to mix it. Color changes to pink. The sauce is complete. I've added the cream, and we're going to use this tonight for dinner. And then whatever is left over, we're going to freeze in small containers that are enough for one meal. Because I must have this on hand anytime my grandson comes, because he loves it. It's a beautiful, creamy, meaty sauce. So what can we do with this? This will be delicious on a lasagna, of course. I mean, you could take a slice of bread and just put a ladle full of this and eat it, and it's delicious. You can do all kinds of things with it. It can go on spaghetti, could go on noodles, could go on gnocchi. As a matter of fact, next week we'll do a video of gnocchi. Thank you, thank you, thank you to all of you. Buon appetito e alla prossima volta. Ciao!
Smile.